it's fitting that we would finish our songs with the wonder of the cross. And the reason is it feeds perfectly into introducing the preacher for this evening, C.J. Mahaney. He is a precious friend to me and a part of the original founding team of our Resolve Conference. Just curious, how many of you have never heard C.J. preach live? Would you just raise your hand for a second? Wow. You better buckle up. You know, I say that not because of anything in CJ, but because I understand the Savior he preaches, and it is compelling. I want to do a shameless couple of book promotions. The first is to talk about what this book has done in my life. It's a combination of two books, Living the Cross-Centered Life. I can only tell you that this book, we live in a world, especially in Christianity, of overstatements. And I know I'm certainly prone to them, but I can say without any hesitation, this little book changed my life. It had such unique focus in riveting my attention, not just on the cross, not just on the gospel, but the practical applications of the gospel in my life. In one section, he kind of nails us on both sides on preventing yourself from becoming legalistic and also preventing yourself becoming a libertine. It just drives home what happened on Calvary a couple of thousand years ago, how that matters today and what you think and how you live and who you are. Another book I want to talk about by CJ is a compilation of some friends that he put this book together with called Worldliness. I want to read you a section of Worldliness after I tell you a couple of things about my friend CJ. I thought a long time about how to introduce him. I had a lot of stuff, a lot of bullet points written down. I could tell you that he was pastor for 3 decades, faithfully of one church. I could tell you that he leads Sovereign Grace, which is a multitude of church planting and oversight of these churches in the Sovereign Grace movement that are glorifying God by seeing people come to Christ and shepherding them to discipleship and maturity. All of that is what he does, but I want to tell you about who he is. This is a man who, in my estimation, few people I've ever been around measure up to in terms of his deliberate priorities. When you know CJ, you understand that he loves his wife. To be around him is to hear him talk about his bride that he loves. When you're around CJ, you know he loves his children and his grandchildren. You also know he loves his church. You know that he loves the people around him. It's impossible to engage a conversation with CJ without thinking that he really believes in that moment of time you're the only person alive except for him. And he means it. He has influenced me so many times. I had one of the kindest compliments of my preaching just a few weeks ago. CJ, someone just said, "Rick, that sounded exactly like C.J. Mahaney." And I said, "It's probably because I stole it from C.J. Mahaney." This is a man whose life and whose reputation is so simple. It's about Christ. He's uniquely fitted to speak to us on the subject of sin and godliness. Let me read you from his book on worldliness in the chapter that he wrote. The antidote to worldliness is the cross of Jesus Christ. Only through the power of the cross of Christ can we successfully resist the seduction of the fallen world. The Savior's death on the cross is what makes possible forgiveness of sin and provides power to overcome sin. And the cross is the attraction that draws our hearts away from the empty and deadly pleasures of the world. Let me read that sentence again. Now, focus and listen. The cross is the attraction that draws our hearts away from the empty and deadly pleasures of the world. He goes on and says this, "Do you want the world to lose its appeal? Then crowd out worldliness by filling your affections with the cross of Christ. Crucify the world as a dead and undesirable thing by meditating on the love of the Savior. Resist the bait of the world by gazing at the wondrous cross. I have never interacted with CJ. I have never heard CJ. But when that was not true, please welcome our friend CJ Mahaney.